recording.
All right, we are recording. We get to the right
Good to go.
hand up here. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Delvo.
Here.
Schuler.
Here.
Scannell.
Present.
Dean.
Excused.
Hinkfist.
Here.
Parma.
Must be.
And
He
Again,
is also.
okay, we have a quorum, sir.
Excellent. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Kathy,
Second.
second by Matt. All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Regular order of business, consideration, possible action, and development agreement to replace 19-04 EWG at the rail yard, changing the project from a market rate housing project to an affordable housing project, updating projected value of the project, and updating the overall construction schedule. Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. I've been working on this one for quite a while. This has been, both TWG and the city and base companies have been working on trying to come to an updated agreement on this. That agreement is attached in your packet. The primary difference, the TIP assistance is essentially the same as the original project. The key difference is changing it from a market rate project to an affordable rate project. Just if folks remember, this was originally a new market tax credits deal for a market rate project. TWG then lost that financing, that financial backer, for some reason backed out of the project. So they've spent the previous year kind of hitting the reset button on their capital stack, which they were successful in applying for WIDA tax credits for the project. So they have been awarded those tax credits, and this essentially resets the development agreement to that, essentially reflect that change in the project. The evaluation is still $21 million as it was previously, and the way the TIF assistance is being actually divided out is exactly the same as it was in the previous agreement. So that aspects have not changed. So we did, obviously with the delay, we did have to update the project schedule to make it reflect so they can get going again. So they are, upon approval here, they are ready to get going, and they've actually, I think they actually have their financing largely in place contingent on this moving forward. So then it's simply a matter of, they would hopefully be actually still be under construction yet this fall.
And the exterior of the building is the same, it's very attractive.
The exact, it's literally the exact project as was previously proposed.
Same one.
So normally we'd be working with TWG directly, so help me to understand DDL holdings, how they fit into this.
This is essentially, this was done as a three-party agreement. DDL is basically is kind of the master developer, I guess, in terms of the overall site. Essentially, they had kind of originally had the options and controls on the site. So the way this agreement was done, it was actually done as a three-party agreement.
Right.
So all three parties essentially have to agree to those changes. So part of the delay, there was some language that DDL was looking for that staff was not necessarily in agreement with. Those things were essentially worked out and did not end up coming forward in the agreement.
Okay.
So certainly happy to answer any questions for folks.
And as far as changing it to market, it wasn't market, it's less market rate and more low-income housing, if you will, if that's the right term. And we actually approved that at the previous meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right, questions, comments, please.
Just one quick question to Neil. Now that kind of we've been through the changes, and I think it's changed the total, what likely assessed value of the property. What's the change amount?
The actual assessment on the project specifically has been was essentially 21 million in the earlier agreement. So we kind of had assumed that was actually projections actually had the project coming in at a higher valuation than 21 million, but in the agreement we negotiated 21.
Yep.
So actually, with the change of doing this, that was actually confirmed right through our assessing department. They have, TWG is essentially agreeing to still retain that 21 million. They feel that they're still comfortable with that number, even with the change to an affordable project. So they still believe that valuation is going to be attainable.
Okay, because I was reacting to, there's a statement in the agenda item that says the lower valuation of the project will create a lower cash flow of TID increment.
And that's because the guarantee remains the same, but the actual projection we were looking at, I think we were actually expecting a little bit higher valuation on the project.
Got it.
They own the other building on the corner as well, right?
That is correct. They're also the owner of Broadway Lofts.
I think we're having good success with them over there.
We are. We have had. I think they've had some maintenance things that they worked through and continue to be on site. It will actually help when getting this project actually having more management site on staff.
Sure.
to continue that. But yeah, they've been very responsive to staff to this point, absolutely.
Okay.
Did you say there was also a change in schedule, but they're still looking to get under construction in the fall?
Correct. The development, this is essentially, we're about a year and a half behind on the original development agreement, so it's simply kind of updating those dates to reflect the current schedule. But I do have, Mr. Kelly is available at least through Teams if we have any specific questions for him. So just to make sure, but yeah, just essentially, they are still looking at approximately a little over a year construction schedule, but they would like to get started yet this fall.
Alderman Scannell, this is your area, right?
It is correct, yes indeed.
What do you feel about this?
Oh, yeah, 100% behind it.
Okay, good.
So I have a question, because I've been asked this before. So is WIDA those tax credit, that's federal money? Is that federal or state money?
I think isn't we the state money?
I think it's state.
It's a state agency. Every state gets their own allocation from.
I'm just wondering if they're required to follow the Davis-Bacon Act.
Yeah. Ryan, can you hear me?
I've been asked.
Let's see if I can, hold on, Ryan, I'm gonna try to get your volume turned up here so we can hear you a little bit, hold on. Let's see if we can.
Is it coming from
He was coming, yeah, he was coming through a second ago here, hold on.
Oh, yes. If it's not open, we would need to open the floor.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Motion.
Motion open the floor.
Second. Motion second. Open the floor. All those in favor?
Hold on, Ryan, just a second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. For some reason, Ryan, I'm not getting my sound to be able to come through, so I'm gonna have to translate for you here. But, so the question is, are you guys subject to Davis-Bacon because of your WIDA tax credits? Okay, it is still a federal resource, but they said they are not subject to Davis-Bacon because it is essentially is a state program.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Oh, we have motion to close the open meeting.
Motion to close.
And I missed the other questions for the developer. Okay, motion to
Motion to close the floor.
close.
Second.
Second,
Second.
yes. And motion and second to go back to regular business. All those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Jessica.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Alderman Scannell.
Second.
Second by Jessica. Any questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay,
Excellent, thank you.
you're approved, Ryan, thank you.
Yeah, we're anxious to see progress.
Don't be so loud next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 2 on regular business. Consideration of possible action on amendment to development agreement 20-01 regarding clarification of project dates. This is in regard to the Monroe project, right?
Yep, and this was just at the previous RDA meeting. We went so fast, I know staff kind of reported that we had some date changes requested by the developer. We're quite fully confident that those were addressed in the motion, so we're just bringing it back one more time with those dates actually added to the amendment, and they're highlighted in your packet. So everyone will make sure that we're actually voting and including those amended dates. I think that was the intention, but we got going so fast, we weren't sure if it was actually included in the motion, so we're just bringing it back one more time to be sure.
I guess they had a question for you, and you explained it as far as how the payment for the land and the TIF and all that, that percentage breakdown. Could you give that to us again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, the question Chairman Delvo asked was in terms of the debt service on the actual property. So that is actually incorporated into our cash flow as a dedicated percent. I think we said 8%, I believe, is what is actually being held back each year to be put towards the debt service to repay the city for that land. So in addition, there's the percentage that is going to the developer, there's a set percentage then that goes back towards the debt service, and then the rest goes to the city for administration and other projects.
So that percentage, Diana, will go toward closing that bond out then, that we bought the land with? That the idea?
Correct, the TID paid for the land, and that'll go back into the fund balance for that TID. So yes, it will pay off the debt.
Questions or comments? Otherwise, this is basically adjusting the dates from the original development agreement.
What's the official shovel and ground date?
in terms of this, assuming they have their financing, we'd like to, I think our intention would be to get them in, hopefully working on some environmental work here yet this fall, but the city will probably still retain ownership of that property, so we need to work through exactly what that would look like in order to get them moving forward. But we actually would see them, I think, probably, I would say a spring breaking ground for actual moving forward on construction of the project.
Because this is the grocery
Yep,
Correct.
down here.
that's what everybody wants, absolutely,
So-
exciting.
Maybe
So-
they'll spring break, they'll break from the spring.
So this was, I mean, so the last meeting, this came forward as the actual amendment, just to kind of recap, so for the different members were here. Essentially, the construction costs came in considerably higher than they originally anticipated. I think a difference of like 33 million to 43 million. So that got their attention. Certainly their interest rate, I think, also went from, I think, just like about 3.8, 3.9% to 6% on their construction. So obviously, and then the third, I guess the third whammy was they got increased environmental costs on the site in terms of actually probably having to do a little bit more remediation. Obviously, we had been pretty regular communication with the developer on this one. They actually offered, if there's anything they could do to reduce costs and so forth on the project. We said, do not change the project. I think everybody likes the project the way it's defined and designed. Really don't want, if you can value engineer it, fine, but please don't change the nature of the project. Obviously, the underground parking is the thing that's certainly causing the conflict with the environmental work.
Right.
So that's why they're gonna have to probably do a considerable amount of actually taking the old soil off and then having to put clean fill back in to make the project viable.
Very nice building design too, great track.
Absolutely.
Questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And second by Matt. Questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Give us an update, Neil, what happened?
So I actually have a printed version here for everybody.
Alright.
So, let me know if you
Yes.
guys are- So, sir.
Already.
So,
Oh, I can't.
we're getting there. I knew you were coming. Kathy, so, there we go.
Thank you.
So just to kind of, I'll fire this up and kind of go through these. This is kind of just a narrative update on the majority of the larger projects. Let me bring that up on the screen here. That one, this one. So we've got just kind of trying to do a quick status update on all of the major projects here that were in here. A couple of newer updates. Legacy Hotels under construction. We're working at East Town Mall, facade improvements, and the credit line building are obviously underway. So Fort, we just talked about that. Great update here for that one, obviously here today. Good news regarding the Merge Urban Development has kind of concluded a lot of their soils work, and it's looking like they believe they're going to be able to kind of just flip the order of their buildings in order to get going on their, what would have been building 2 will now become building 1. That's probably going to, so the soils information is working out. They figure if they can start on that one and let the soils settle on the other site a little bit longer, they should be able to proceed largely on schedule, but we have to do some final amendments to that development agreement, so that'll probably be coming forward to accommodate those changes. Phase 1 improvements permits were issued for the construction, so the construction should be beginning here hopefully any day now, as soon as they get the contractor mobilized and working on there. We just talked about 200 North Monroe. So Impact 7 is also another project. They've had some staffing changes on their end, but we're looking at trying to get a updated development agreement. Hopefully maybe at the September meeting, if we can hustle and get something done by then. So hopefully we're actually having a meeting with one of their staff here on Wednesday. We'll be meeting with them. Tuning Properties is preparing, I think, to do some site work maybe this fall, but will probably be under construction really in earnest in the spring. 222 Cherry Street, that has been approved by this body and by council, but we're also looking at possibly doing some last minute adjustments to the schedule because of some delays on there. There's also some questions about making sure whether or not the first floor will actually be able to be used or not.
Jeff, you
So
have an update on that, first floor? I heard you saying something earlier.
So none other than, buses is contemplating another location depending upon what the plan is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we are working with them.
Okay, thank you.
Public market work continues. We just kind of worked on the grant agreement for their facade grant for Arpa funds for that project. So that's moving forward. So they're getting ready to kind of get going on their capital campaign for that project. General Capital, the residential project, is still working on their capital stack behind the public market and figure out exactly how that would go. A lot of work is being discussed with staff on how their parking might work, both on-site and in the surrounding area. Folks remember that developer Philip Barson had brought in the 400 and 500 block of North Broadway, talked about doing a project requesting some TIF assistance. He's doing it right now. He's moving forward on a reduced project, and is not planning on asking for financial assistance at this time. So maybe something in the future that may be coming back, but there is still a project moving forward there. We are waiting to hear back from Gorman on 216 Military Avenue. This is the site that's in front of the old Shopko building there, the H.J. Martin site. Possibly having a project there. They have been awarded tax credits and are in negotiations with the Martins on actually acquiring that property and executing that. So we're kind of waiting to see kind of an update and probably eventually a development agreement with that project as well, probably hopefully sometime before the end of the year. One Astor, we have the preliminary CSM has been completed and drafted. We're working on some final comments to actually get that land transfer done for the trail and so forth, and get that done and actually get Mr. Miller his money that he's owed for doing those improvements. But he is kind of in the process of evaluating some financial options and deciding whether or not he's going to move forward on his phase 2, what would actually be the actual apartment construction. So he has not made a full determination as to whether or not he's going to proceed with that at this point or not yet.
And Neil, can you refresh me on this one? Because this one has now been bogged down for a long time. Like, are we just kind of stuck now sitting if they don't move forward? Or, I don't remember the agreements.
Yeah, essentially, it wasn't, the phase 1 was the actual trail development itself and then the land swap. And we got a little bit delayed on the land swap aspect of it because we were waiting. I think both parties were waiting for the other one to do the CSM. So we finally had cities proceeding and getting that done. So we're going to get those as soon as that's done. That was essentially the requirement of phase 1 of that development agreement. So he completes those improvements and it does the land swap and then actually gets paid. I think it was $150,000 essentially to help offset the costs of that trail improvement, which is getting utilized pretty regularly. Every time we go by there, it's a pretty busy segment. So once that's done, so then the phase 2 is the actual private development project in terms of actually getting some assistance to move forward on that. So he's certainly still looking at that particular project. He's also keeping an eye on development costs. Concerned about, so certainly hearing about some of the other folks on riverfront development and some of the costs there, having the underground costs in terms of not only contamination, which is probably not an issue here, but in terms of soil stability, in terms of putting a foundation in and making sure it's going to stay where it's not going to sink when they put things in. So he's still doing a lot of concerns with that particular aspect of it. He's not required to proceed with phase 2. And it is a pay-go assistance essentially from the city standpoint, so there is no additional financial contribution unless he moves forward on a project. My guess is we don't have the TIF in place for this particular project. Our development agreement says we will create one when he's ready to go. So I think the situation is essentially if Mr. Miller decides to move forward on it, we will proceed with the TIF creation and probably be able to execute the rest of that existing agreement. If he does not, there's probably going to be something where he may want to sell that property and still have something in place as an incentive to still possibly do a project. So I think we'll know for sure whether or not he's going to go on probably January, February, probably as of next year. I think he's probably looking to make a decision.
So he currently owns the site?
He does own the site, yes.
Could be a brand new kid, District 9?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Green Bay Housing Authority is going through their capital needs assessments right now, essentially for Mason Manor. 1100 Block East Walnut are currently kind of still evaluating some financing options and possibly a couple new partners for a project on that site. Grandview Industrial Park is underway. Obviously, the Carnivore project broke ground here about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now.
Very exciting.
Very exciting on that. That's been a lot of staff work and has obviously gone into that. We're already moving forward then on trying to figure out exactly what the next parcels to acquire and possibly grow on that site. Hopefully, in that area, the city still owns a couple parcels in that area, but maybe looking to see if there's any interest in kind of expanding. We have some contacts with a couple of the property owners in that area to see if what their intentions might be going forward. So right now we are creating the TIF specifically for that project. That is one of the districts that is being created as we speak. A little company called Nature's Way is getting a little busy, getting busier, and getting ready to ramp up and do some things on their end. So I think permits are still anticipated here, hopefully yet this month, I think, to get going on the gummy plant expansion. Georgia Pacific is doing site work already. Their existing site work on Day Street. No specific plans have been really announced on the reuse or sale of that site at this point. But we know we are anticipating at some point, probably this winter, having some discussions with Georgia Pacific on what their intentions there would be. Quick update on the coal piles since Gary brought in the poster of the guy skiing down the hill. Essentially, we have Brown County is proceeding with engineering studies on the Pulliam site to try to figure out exactly how they would fit everybody on that site, and then the city is actually starting to engage Sea Rice specifically on how the acquisition of that at least the first 10 acres, if not more, would end up being on their current site. So kind of both processes are kind of running parallel right now. Sea Rice kind of wants to have some information, obviously, on what their future costs are going to be at the Pulliam site before they would kind of agree to a sale price really on their current site, which is reasonable, but we're going to try to kind of work them concurrently and see if we can continue that process going forward. Let's see here. Similarly, WPS campus, they see a couple buildings have been taken down, so WPS is actually taking them that are clean, and they aren't using it. They've actually had a couple of structures come down already. Still kind of working with staff a little bit on the overall remediation plan for the rest of the site. Kind of exciting update for the JBS site. We actually had the RFP issued. We actually got 9 proposals back on doing concept planning for that particular site. We're kind of in the process of reviewing those right now. So we're excited to kind of get somebody going. I think the mayor's intention is still maybe have kind of the community park aspect actually under design and possibly breaking ground as quickly as possible. So we need to get this process moving as quickly as we can to see if we can actually get to move on to the design element of that. So we're probably going to be involving this body in the selection of that consultant at some point. So we'll kind of see exactly. Haven't quite fully defined how that would be, but probably would anticipate trying to identify out of the 9 firms, maybe bringing in 3 or 4 for interviews. Probably will be involving this body in that interview process.
The design of the land and all that's going to happen there, that's done though. The city's done that, right? I mean, as far as what's going to be where?
No, this is what this is actually for. This is actually for a conceptual plan on how all these different elements could fit together.
Gotcha.
It is somewhat of a constrained site. There's some development things going on there. We've got some high expectations on what we'd like to see on there. So we've got some really good, some very talented firms I think have submitted RFP. So we're excited to be bringing a few of those hopefully to this body for some consideration here in the very near future. We talk about Light Park renovation is still, obviously the dock wall improvements were good. Celebrated a couple of cruise ship stops already this summer. The comprehensive plan for the park is still, I think, underway. Hopefully to be done this year.
You mentioned earlier, Dean Hayne, port director, spoke there 30 minutes ago, but he said he's anticipating 8 ships next year. That's amazing.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. I mean,
I never heard that.
That's probably, I would imagine that's hopefully the existing company doubling up and then maybe bringing in a second firm, a second company, I would imagine.
You seem pretty confident about it.
Okay. We're going to hold them to it.
Yeah.
That'd be great if they actually ended up getting that many in. That'd be
There's
super.
boat traffic that we could get down here.
Yeah.
We build the right, you have the marina or a place to go.
Build it.
They will come.
They will come,
I'm telling you.
exactly, in this case, that's right.
I
And we
talked to
didn't
a lot
mention-
of people on the lake this year about going to Green Bay, and they said, I never thought
It's all
about it.
research you've been doing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, because I would love to see more voters come down.
Fantastic.
So obviously, RDA has moved forward all these TID creations and amendments that you see on the screen here. So we're going to City Council on the 30th and then Joint Review Board, I believe, on the 18th or 19th. We haven't actually set that date yet. Once we have council action, we'll probably go on and schedule that meeting. And then the other thing that staff, especially finance department, has been spending a whole lot of time on is on Arpa funding. So quite a few projects have been approved as of last Tuesday, I guess it was. And there's still several others that are still needing some staff evaluation and will be being brought back here shortly. But
Great update.
Awesome.
Yeah.
so we'll try to keep that same pack. Now we've got the format; it's a lot easier to update
Yeah,
and
you
keep that
change-
moving.
Yes.
So, and we are still looking to add Kathy in terms of tying in the agreements, the agreement dates specifically on when things are gonna happen. I know that was one thing you had
Yeah.
asked for, so we've got, and
Well, you got
overall,
this far, hey,
Yeah.
I was really happy.
perfect. So this,
Yeah.
we know this is at least giving us a good checkpoint to kind of keep, the idea will be to present this to you guys. If you have any questions, we won't read through the whole thing
Right.
every single
Right.
time.
Just tell us the changes.
Exactly.
From last month.
Exactly.
And Mr. Merkus, a question for you. And
Yes, sir.
I have no financial interest in this question. When does Tequila's open? I'm just highly interested.
Yes, it's top secret, but it is in September. They will open in September.
Okay.
They're excited about it. I toured it a few weeks ago. The space is beautiful. Did a very nice remodel. They purchased the property and invested nicely in it. They will be having a friends and family event taking place there. I can't let you know when that is, but they're excited to be opening in September.
Awesome.
And then, the recent news, Mr. Schneider has announced that Black and Tan is coming back to the Bell Building, and the Daily Buzz, and that'll be freestanding, we'll take the entire second floor. He is partnering with a well-known chef, Andy Miller, from Galley 57, and they are going to build a full commercial kitchen on the first floor. The Daily Buzz will take the entire first floor and will be standalone. And they've also indicated and gone public that they are acquiring the 1001 and will bring it back as the 1001 Club. Hope to do that yet this year. So 1001 and Tequila's will be two fine new additions in the Main Street District.
Fantastic.
And currently, what I just mentioned to Cheryl earlier, we're working with 6 restaurant groups in the downtown area at this point in time, new, expanded, or revised, but some very nice activity in the realm of hospitality.
Great news. Excellent job,
I
Neil.
don't know, Cheryl, if there's just anything else housing-wise that we wanted to update, or?
No, I think we were successful in receiving some ARPA dollars for housing projects, which was great. The only thing they held for us was some art asks that we had, held till September, so that was good. Continuing to work with developers on the East Walnut site, moving forward on that.
Or tour of Rita?
Yep, WIDA, the new director of WIDA is coming into town next week, and we're going to give them a dog and pony show for some sites they're interested in seeing.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That's Elmer Moore.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Anyone would want to.
Great update. A lot of exciting things, like always. Thanks. Our next meeting will be September 13th. And with that in mind.
Motion to adjourn it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Schedule.
Second?
And second, Matt. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
A lot of exciting things. Oof.
Awesome.
You too, sir.
Yeah, we signed into this.
Behave. Or not.
I'll choose the